You're listening to a Mamma Mia podcast.
Mamma Mia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on.
Mamma Mia Out Loud!
Hello and welcome to Mamma Mia Out Loud and to our Friday show where we take a break from the news cycle and breathe out. Today, my friends, it's Friday, the 5th of July, and I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens.
And if you want to hear more from us, why wouldn't you want to hear more from us?
Well, there's a weekend ahead.
There is.
So you probably got
time.
all this time and you're wondering what you should listen to.
It was the last of season 1 of Mid. Do not worry if you like Mid, and if you don't, why not? Go listen to it. But Mid is the show I host for Gen X women, and it's thoughtful conversations. And the last one of season 1 is with Christine Arnoux. You know who she is. She's a bloody icon. But it's just the most amazing, frank conversation. She talks about everything from how she was so flattened by a divorce, she couldn't get out of bed, and she very much had to rely on her kids, and how she thinks that was probably quite a good thing for them to see that they could look after her sometimes. She also talks about what it's like as an Indigenous woman, Christine Arnoux is from the Torres Strait, to have 2 children who look very different, and so the world reacts to them very differently. That was a really fascinating part of the conversation. And she also just talked about addiction, about what happens when the pop music industry decides you're too old. It's a great conversation. Go and listen to it, and we'll be back with season 2 of Mid really quickly.
I interviewed on No Filter this week some blokes. Don't do that often, but it's always very popular, and I made some new friends. Jimmy and Nath have a radio show. I honestly wouldn't even know how to listen to the radio anymore.
I'm only laughing because I love how you like, and I made some new friends, and now they're my new best friends. I love it.
I know. They've been compared to Hamish and Andy, but they are younger and they are like quite feminist, and Jimmy has mental health struggles. Nath has his own really interesting story. His wife has cystic fibrosis, and they're best friends. They work together. They're really interesting, and it was very sort of candid, the conversation.
On Cancelled, we did Katy Perry, which is interesting because she's in the news cycle at the moment.
She's so
with her
in the news
outfit.
cycle.
We didn't talk about that. So Out Louders, if you haven't seen that photo that's gone everywhere, she's at some fashion show and she's wearing laddered tights and nothing and an open fur coat.
Now, there have been a lot of Katy Perry controversies over the year because she's been around for a long time, ever since I Kissed a Girl.
She's career relaunching.
Yes, and remember, obviously, her Russell Brand marriage, and now she's with Orlando Bloom. Anyway, so we talk about everything from her alleged feud with Taylor Swift. You might have forgotten about that.
Yeah, they made up in that video clip. And remember she did that film clip, Katy Perry, where whipped cream or something came out of her boobs?
Oh, yeah. We talk about all of that. It was a really, really fun one. That's the most recent episode of Cancelled.
We will put a link to all of those episodes in the show notes. Get more of us in your ears, because why wouldn't you?
On today's show, why did one of the world's biggest superstars decide to let a film crew record her very lowest moments? Also, recommendations, which include a show that will change your mind about a Gen X icon, something you can do with 3 generations, and the best kind of shopping, the free kind. And a lesson never learned, a very messy Mia and Jessie's Saturday night. That's this week's best and worst. But first, Mia Freedman.
If you were a day of the week, what day would you be?
What are you asking me? Are you asking me what my favourite time of the week is?
No. So your whole personality can be summed up by a day of the week.
Can I guess yours?
You can. But before you do,
Okay.
I'm
Can
going
you
to
tell me the
explain what they all
rules?
mean.
Yeah.
So Em Vernon, who you often hear as a guest host on this podcast and who writes the Out Loud newsletter, she wrote a piece on Mamma Mia about it this week that's gone off. So you do this little quiz, right? If you're a Monday, you live to work and you love it. You're smart, structured and organised. Some people would describe you as the planner in your household and you love holding that position. If you're a Monday, you have your entire month planned down to the hour.
You.
Tuesday, you love filling your cup. You aim for a perfect mix of fulfillment from both work and leisure. You love the feeling of achieving something, whether it be completing a big project at work or making your bed in the morning.
Maybe you.
You can also speak up for yourself, which one you think you are.
That's not me.
Wednesday. If you're a Wednesday, you are the glue of your friendship groups. Your calm demeanour allows you to be the person that everyone opens up to and feels safe with. You're level-headed and known for never rushing into anything. You are usually the forgotten souls among the other louder personalities I'm looking at you Thursdays, which we're about to get to, but that just makes you more powerful. One of your biggest strengths as a Wednesday is listening, making you a keeper of all the secrets.
Oh.
Do you think that sounds like you? Okay,
Oh,
Thursdays.
I quite like Wednesday.
I like
But she
Wednesday.
sounds a bit boring,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also powerful. Yeah.
If you identify as a Thursday, you really wanted to be a weekend day but didn't want to sound too
Yeah, I
obnoxious.
think that's me.
I think I'm a
Thursdays
Thursday.
love a fun time but not a long time. You want to be home by 9 p.m.
That's all of us.
But if you're at a social event, you are the social event.
That's you.
The minute everyone finds out that a Thursday is coming, the vibe is immediately lifted.
Oh, no, it's not you.
You're the master of small talk and can make anyone feel like they're interesting and funny. You know a good idea when you see it and love tapping into that creative side of your mind.
Okay, so
maybe it
you
is
think you're a Thursday.
Okay. So Friday, you live your life so carefree that we never know what you're going to do next. It's extremely hard for someone to lock you down as your calendar is filled with plan after plan.
I think I'm none of
Every
these.
single day of the week.
There's 2 more
You
days to
love
come.
big events. The more people, the better. You struggle to juggle your social calendar and are known for being a bit spacey when it comes to remembering important things.
Well, that's true.
That's- yeah.
But the rest of it.
Yeah.
Friday's the life of the party. Saturday. You ready? Saturdays prioritise their leisure and relaxation over anything else. You work to live and love counting down the days to your next big holiday. If you're a Saturday person, I have one question for you. What's your hobby? I know you have one.
Oh,
Maybe on a Saturday. I like
you
to
are
read.
not.
I like to read. I
You're
like
a wor-
holidays.
You're a mad worker. in theory,
it's
I like
a
it.
little bit you-hole, but also not. Okay,
It's a little bit me, but
Final day, Sunday. If someone were to throw a ball at your face right now, you'd catch it.
Well, that's none of us.
I have incredible reflexes.
Oh,
Why?
I do.
Jessie.
Because you are prepared for anything.
Yeah,
Sundayers are similar to Mondayers, but they're not as good at organisation. You love planning your day exactly the way you want it and you're not too bothered with anyone else. You have to have your me time and will decline any social plans if you've already carved out time for yourself.
I'm just going to go off vibe. My vibe when you initially asked that question was immediately, Jessie, you're a Thursday. And the reason I think I'm a Thursday is because I like the prospect of the end of the week without the pressure of a weekend. So I love knowing that the weekend is coming, but you don't have to plan anything. You're just living in the joy of knowing freedom is upon me.
Anticipatory.
Yeah.
My favourite day of the week is Friday. For similar reasons, it's kind of better than Saturday because it's all
It's the
It's the
promise.
promise.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. But I'm clearly not a Friday. I want to be a Thursday, but I did a quiz online that just said I was Sunday, and it said, "You are a funny and sweet person to be around," which sounded like patronising bullshit. And I was like, "No, I don't want to be that."
Not
Kind
sweet.
of generic. I'm actually a Monday.
I knew you were a
Yeah,
Monday.
because of course you are.
Yeah. Well, the first clue is you live to work and you love it. You're smart, structured, and organised. I don't know if I'm those things.
Yeah. You're just sad.
Yeah, I think I
What
am.
day am I?
I haven't done the quiz for you.
Oh,
Bloody hell, do I have to do everything around here?
needy.
My voice is the conductor of my life. When your voice brings you joy. Ça va les garçons? Je t'aime. You're the best of yourself. I need my instrument.
Celine.
911, what's your emergency?
Last Friday night, I found myself watching 1 hour and 43 minutes of a documentary about Celine Dion, which I didn't expect.
No, me
I
neither.
I started it and I thought if it doesn't get me in, I won't continue it. And then I'd watched all of I Am, is what it's called. We are going to talk about some of the themes and more broadly about the story of what's happened to 56-year-old Celine Dion. You've probably seen headlines about her recently. So you don't actually have to have watched the documentary. Most notably, the Canadian singer was diagnosed with an incredibly rare progressive autoimmune neurological disorder called stiff person syndrome in 2022. And for nearly 2 decades before her diagnosis, she was dealing with spasms and pain. She was on a lot of medication. There are points in the documentary where she talks about how much Valium she was taking in order to even perform. SPS affects 1 in 1 million people, twice as many women as men, and can be managed but not cured at this point. In the documentary, Dion explained what SPS is. Here's what she said.
And today, the diagnosis SPS, which is stiff person syndrome. It's in the muscle, it's in the tendons, it's in the nerves. You can't see anything. because it's not seeable.
On top of how debilitating this disorder is, it has most devastatingly to her impacted her ability to sing. When she tries to sing, this is what happens.
When I try to breathe, my lungs are fine. It's what's in front of my lungs that's so rigid. It's like I know you. That's what happens. It's like I know what I want to do. And now you can show me, yeah. And that's what happens, and it's very difficult for me to hear that and to show this to you.
When the director, Oscar-nominated filmmaker Irene Taylor, approached Celine Dion about the potential documentary, she actually didn't know about Dion's health. It was only later that she learned about the illness, and there are really confronting scenes in the documentary, including one depicting a seizure where Dion is moaning in pain. Taylor offered to cut the footage, but it was Dion who wanted it in. She said, "I think this film can help me. I think this film can help others understand what it's like to be in my body." You both watched this documentary this week. What did you take away from it?
I was heartbroken by it. I was riveted by it too. Like, I wasn't a big Celine Dion fan. I sort of followed her. I've never really loved her music. I mean, she's obviously an incredible singer, but I've never really been a big fan of her music. But she was very much a tabloid fixture when I was in magazines. You know, she married her manager who'd known her since he sort of discovered her when she was 12, and he was much older than her, and they had children together, and then he got throat cancer and fought that for quite a long time and died about 5 or 6 years ago, soon after they had their twins. I watched it and I found it incredibly moving. I kept asking myself, I wonder why she did this. It was very surprising because it was completely without vanity. She had no makeup on in any of it. I mean, it was interspersed with footage of her on stage, and I was reminded of what an extraordinary talent and extraordinary voice she has, or she had, which is what's so sad and what we just heard then. She was the only person who was interviewed through it, and it's shot in a very tight style. So it's very unforgiving.
It's nearly all in her house as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very deliberate choice, because in a way it was interspersed with all these arena shows and awards ceremonies and performances at, you know, massive, massive events. And it showed you that her life has shrunk to her living in this very palatial, obviously amazing compound in Las Vegas. I don't understand why she lives in Las Vegas, but anyway. And she's feeding her dog. She is feeding guinea pigs. She is doing medical appointments. She is with her children. Her life is now just this
Appointments.
very small, completely different existence. And I thought that was quite powerfully shown.
She's only 56. That I had to Google it while I was watching it, because I thought, hang on, to have an illness of that severity at that age is just really, really sad. But in terms of why she made this documentary, I was wondering the same thing. And then there's the scene at the end, which I referred to, where she has a seizure. And for a lot of people, that would be your worst nightmare, to have you in that kind of state broadcast to the world. It's incredibly vulnerable.
So vulnerable.
And she's not really conscious, and she's
quite
moaning
frightening.
in pain. Like, it's really scary and really, really full on. But I think that this is more broadly a story about chronic illness and how people who are living with a chronic illness, which is often invisible, how desperately they want to be seen. Because if you say that you have this, and in fact it often doesn't show up on scans, it's really difficult to get a diagnosis, then I think there's this instinct to think that people aren't going to believe you. And so you want to perform or prove just how sick you are. And with someone who has this level of obligation to her fans, and I think she's horrified that towards the end of when she was most recently performing, she couldn't do it, and she would have little tricks, like she would tap on the microphone and pretend there was an issue with the microphone, or she'd point the microphone at the crowd. I think she feels such shame that she let them down.
Because she had to cancel her residency
Yeah.
in Vegas.
That this is almost a doctor's certificate to go, I need you to
that
see
makes sense.
how sick I am so that you understand I never wanted to let you down.
I think that's very true, because to your point about invisible illnesses, because this is quite a long film, there are portions of it that are kind of fun, right? She's actually a good time to hang out with Celine Dion. She was quite funny. She has stories, obviously. She clearly loves what she does or what she did so much that it's almost all of her. And she takes you to her warehouse where all her wardrobe archive is, and it's clear how much she loved all that, the clothes, the shoes. Her home is amazing. So a lot of it is kind of fun. And there are periods of it where you kind of like, oh, she doesn't seem that sick. You know what I mean? Oh, she seems all right. She's getting around a bit. She's, playing with the dogs. She's going and doing a little job here and there. One of the things for people who have invisible chronic illnesses is they have to still live life with this thing that no one can see. And it's very easy for people to discount it and be like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with you. Or like, oh, you seem heaps better today. And it's kind of an assumption that there's always a positive momentum. And so when the film kind of ends, it ends with her going back to the studio and singing, and she actually sounds pretty good. And her producers are saying, oh, good on you. And she loved it. And you could tell she's all lit up by it. And then she has this terrible seizure. And it's kind of showing you that this is not going away. And this is much more serious than it may represent on her body from the outside.
That's interesting because stressful situations, loud noises, physical touch, there are certain triggers that can trigger the spasms and the seizures and stuff that come from it, which is actually, with a lot of autoimmune disorders and a lot of chronic illnesses, anything from stress, which sounds like a really broad umbrella term, can throw the body into fight or flight. And so even though you might see these moments of someone piercing through and being able to do it, the cost is invisible to us.
Because it's not even just negative stress. It's also positive stress because she was lit up by that.
And
she
exerting
was
energy.
Really stimulated by it. And also though, it was interesting. She said this first happened 17 years ago. She started noticing symptoms and she didn't know what it was. And so she said, I've been hiding it all this time. And I can't lie anymore. And I think you're right. This is her doctor's note, but also her confessional, because the emotional cost of having to maintain a lie is so high and had become unbearable for her. And she said, I feel like people see me out laughing with my family and they're like, but you cancelled your concert and I had bought tickets. Why aren't you performing? So you're right. She's like, these are my bona fides. Look at my pain, which broke my heart. And it was at such a pivotal time in her life where she is reconstructing her identity. And what is her identity if she can't sing? And one of the most poignant parts of it was when she was watching John Farnham. And she was clearly a John Farnham fangirl, and they clearly had an amazing mutual appreciation and respect. And when she was touring in Australia, she brought him on stage. And by then he was already a little bit frail. And we know that since then he's battled cancer and has had to have his jaw reconstructed, and presumably he can't sing anymore either. And so you say, what happens when what you are known for and what you love the most you can't do anymore, and the existential crisis that must provoke?
I wanted to ask if at any time during this you felt like saying to her, stop trying. Not stop trying to live and feel as well as you can, but clearly it's sort of all about this battle to get back on stage and do what she loves doing, because it is so clear that that is what she loves doing, and she can't stop herself from singing all the time and wanting to do that. Was there any part of you that was kind of like, I'll give it up?
It made me think of two other things we've spoken about this week. One was Joe Biden, and when it's so clear from the outside that your perception of what you're capable of and what you might be capable of again is so far removed from what everybody else can see. And also Victoria on America's Sweethearts, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, when it's so clear she's struggling to stay on the team and to live up to all the things she needs to be. And you want to say, just hang up your pom-poms and move on, but she can't. And I was just really struck by the poignancy and also the difference in the way, particularly Joe Biden, who at the time of recording is still leading the party and has not sort of stepped aside and keeps saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And Celine, who wants to show the world, I'm not fine, but still hopes to be fine again.
But I'm going to come back. And there's no world in which, to her, she doesn't. I don't think she can live with that. That made me wonder if it's because we are hit over the head with the resilience narrative. The stories we tell and the stories we celebrate are ones where someone is told they can't, but then they do. And for most people, it's actually not how life goes. There's real grace in going, you're not going to sing like you
I
once
think that
did.
while you're trying, there's hope. And I think once you're not trying anymore, that hope is extinguished. And I think that that is something that people prolong way longer than they should, because should's the wrong word. But I think that's almost a self-preservation mechanism. Because for Joe Biden to go, I'm done, I'm out. And of course, that's what he should have done a long time ago. But you have to be gentle with people. I don't mean him, but like her, and not puncture her belief and her hope and go, Celine, you're never getting back on that stage.
But at what cost?
But
well,
what
that's
would that
what's
cost if you
interesting.
said that to her?
Because I came out of this with a lot of admiration for her. And to be very honest, I hadn't really thought very much about her at all for a long time. But a lot of admiration for her and liking her a great deal. But it's kind of easy from the outside to think, you've got all this money, you've got all this freedom. You could be in Monte Carlo. You could be just hanging around, going to nice parties, wearing nice dresses. You could be like for the rest of your life, right? Kids are growing up. You could be fine. It's so clear that this is who she is, or that's what she believes, that she almost could sing before she could walk, and that if she can't sing and she can't perform. And it was also interesting. She said at one point that the performance is more important than the song. So obviously it's not just the music that she loves, but it's the performance. And all the historical footage on this showed you what an amazing performer she was. She obviously feels like without that, she doesn't exist.
She said, I miss the people.
Yes.
And I can understand. Like you look at, we talk about why do the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders want to get up. It's like the rush of being up there and having everybody cheering for you while you do something that you love.
It's amazing.
Like that would be wild.
I think the optics as well of this documentary, for people like Celine Dion, for all of history, they disappeared. They just disappeared. And in fact, for a lot of people with chronic illness, they just fall out of your lives. They can't leave their house and people just forget about them.
And they don't want to be a drag. They're
No.
like, oh, you know, I am still battling that. No, I don't have a happy narrative for you.
People are
I'll stay home.
impatient. People move on. And so I thought that to render that visible was incredibly brave of her, to have someone follow her around and look sickness in the face. And there was another quote by the director who said, there's such utility in staring pain in the face. And we have this instinct to look away. And you could feel it when you were watching her in that seizure.
Oh,
It's
that
like
scene went on for so
you just
long.
wanted to close your eyes. And she said the same. But she said that she's learnt through filmmaking that something very human happens when you don't look away, when you actually look the person in the eye and bear witness to it.
Is this the documentary maker?
Yeah,
said it?
we could do that more with illness because we don't like looking at it. It means we're confronting our own mortality. It means if she's that sick, I could be that sick. We don't like it.
The same with aging.
Yeah. It was very brave.
It's really heartbreaking. I've been in this situation, you know, thinking about Joe Biden, thinking about Celine, with the old founder of Cosmo, Helen Gurley Brown, who was literally still editing Cosmo when I first became an editor. I think she was probably in her late 70s and she was still editing that magazine in America. This is more a Joe Biden comparison than a Celine comparison. But she had to get tapped on the shoulder. And everyone was trying to do that in such a gentle way. And I remember I was there during that period where they had to bring someone else in for the sake of the brand, because this woman who had been such an icon and an amazing businesswoman and an amazing cultural figure had not been able to move with the times and was suddenly saying things like, oh, I think it's great if a man pinches you on the bum at work. Like, I think that's really flattering. And she was saying things like women can't get AIDS. And it was becoming so awful for the brand and awful for her. And my introduction to her, you know, I sort of got to know her at that age, was that she was a joke. And it was only from getting to know her and understanding her legacy, I'm like, oh, you are an icon. And you compare that, say, to Gloria Steinem. She just turned 90. And she has been able to kind of transition. No one's really had to tap her on the shoulder. But what was heartbreaking about Helen was that she would say, like at dinners and stuff, oh, they've put me out to pasture. They want me just out to pasture because I'm too old. And it would be like, oh, yeah, you are, but
But it's a question of legacy, and the same thing happens with Celine Dion. It's like, has the legacy been made? There's nothing else you could achieve. She has the most successful Las Vegas residency of all time. She made something like $680 million. Like, where's the goal that you're, you know?
But for her, it's not the goal, it's the joy.
It's the joy of doing it. And the thing about that is it's interesting, and I know this isn't necessarily, as you say, so Celine adjacent as the aging issue. On one hand, we think that as you age, you get wiser and you've got more experience and more knowledge, but then there's a tipping point at which it's like, just go away now. We don't want to look at you. We don't have any patience for listening to you.
You've had your turn.
Slowly form a sentence. It's like the argument we had about Jermaine Greer a few months ago. The idea of whether or not we have any patience to listen to people talking if they're not doing it like at top speed and incredibly sharp and articulate as if they've got, does that mean that their thoughts aren't interesting or relevant anymore? I don't mean to say this in defense of Joe Biden. I think we've prosecuted that thoroughly this week, that we all are in agreement that, you know, but it's that idea of, you know, the part of me that was thinking about Celine Dion, you've done everything, you've achieved everything, you've got everything, and was enjoying sort of looking into her world. That's who she is. And I think it's almost impossible for you to accept that it's over. And why would you? It was very interesting and thought-provoking. And also, this is a woman who will wear shoes of any size.
When a girl loves her shoes, she always make them fit. Every time I went to a store and I loved those shoes, they said, "What size are you, ma'am?" I said, "No, you don't understand. What size do you have? I'll make them work. I'll make them fit. I will walk the shoe. I walk the shoe don't walk me." I've worked shoes with my feet like this and sometimes like this to hold on to them. From 6 to 10, give it to me. I love them.
It's really thought-provoking. It's really great.
It's on Prime Video. It's called I Am Celine Dion. If you've watched it, please let us know what you think.
This month, Mamma Mia turns 17. We know birthdays aren't all that exciting when they're not, well, your birthday. There aren't enough presents. So we want to take this as a chance to give you a treat and say thank you for being on the ride with us.
Right now, you can get $20 off a yearly Mamma Mia subscription with the code OUTLOUDBIRTHDAY.
The offer is valid for a limited time only, and you'll find all the details of how to do that in the show notes. Enjoy. My friends.
It's Friday, so we want to help set up your weekend with our best recommendations. Jessie, what do you recommend?
I have a bit of an unusual one this week. When we're away, you know, when you're traveling, you've got a lot of breakfast, lunch and dinners and time in the car and blah, blah, blah. You need an activity, right? A game, a lovely game. We had different generations and all different interests. Anyway, I always do the Good Weekend quiz. Right?
Yeah, I think always do that too.
It's a real fun coming together when you've got a bit of a hodgepodge group of people. It's like, let's do the Good Weekend quiz. And, this person I haven't spoken to has a special interest area in tennis. Great. Now we have something to bond over.
Do you find that you need to do that in a group with different people who have different specialised interests? Because I lose interest if I don't know all the answers.
See, I'm not good at trivia. But I find that everyone's focused.
Yes.
It's
only 25 questions. It doesn't take
And it's
very long.
inclusive of everyone. Start some interesting discussions, right? So I've always done the Good Weekend.
What kind of questions are there?
Okay. Well, actually, this is about the other quiz that I'm about to recommend. But what do you reckon is the most profitable flight path in the whole world?
It's that kind of question.
Sydney, Melbourne.
How did you know that?
Because I've always remembered that Sydney, Melbourne is the most frequent flight path in the whole world.
It's to do with cost, right? Because it's actually quite an expensive flight for a short one. Because I thought it might be New York to Paris or something like that. Apparently, it's why they won't make a train. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, see? Fun fact.
I love trivia.
This quiz.
Love
Yeah,
it.
see? You'd be fun. Anyway, so Good Weekend quiz. Only once a week. It's not enough. I needed more quizzes. So there is this quiz called Gatekeepers of Knowledge. It's on Instagram. And they have 15 questions and then they have a discussion question, which is always really fun at the end.
Is this every day they do new ones?
No, they do it once a week. It's quite Australian, like it's an Australian guy who does it, full transparency. It's one of Luca's friends. And so we kind of started doing it as a joke and now we're like, this is actually pretty good.
I'm so glad you've disclosed that.
Yeah. No. I didn't
So
want to
Media
get
Watch
called
doesn't
out.
come after us.
Exactly. But we just had so much fun with it. Like there was one discussion question that was like, how would you prove you're not AI or something? And like just the interesting rabbit holes people went down. So much fun. Gives you the answers. It's all on
I love
Instagram,
that.
all on the platform. Loved it. It's called Gatekeepers of Knowledge on Instagram.
Holly, what's your recommendation?
Okay, I've been listening to a podcast that is quite a serious one. right? I think an Out Louder recommended this to me because they thought Holly will like this, and they were right. I think it actually came out last year. It's called Who Trolled Amber? And it's made by Tortoise Media, who are a British media organisation who make kind of quite thinky, very well-researched, deep podcasts. And it's about Amber Heard.
This story starts with a spy. Well, a former spy. Someone who knows how easy it is to sway opinions online. This person came to me with a strange theory.
I spent a period of time investigating disinformation campaigns, so foreign influence operations, information warfare stuff. This was more akin to that, what I was witnessing.
Not about a stolen election or a hacking operation, but about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
There is no way that that was all organic. There's no way.
Specifically, it dives into whether or not the overwhelming social media campaign that came along and tore down Amber Heard during those trials were genuine, or whether they were somehow like an organised campaign.
I remember it was unheard of, the amount of online hate she was getting.
I got swept up in that for 24 hours.
You really did.
Yep.
And for those who may or may not remember, is that originally the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial started in London. It was a defamation case against a British newspaper being brought by Johnny Depp, who had called him a wife beater. And Amber Heard in that case was represented by the great Australian human rights lawyer, Jennifer Robinson, one of my obsessions, one of my Roman empires.
Was she also Julian Assange's lawyer?
Yes, Julian Assange's lawyer, all over the media last week. She has worked with some of the most controversial figures in the world. She said she had never seen anything like the hate that was directed at Amber Heard in that first trial when she was representing her in Britain. Just to be clear, Heard won that, or rather Johnny Depp lost that. A judge in Britain did find that on several occasions, irrefutably, Johnny Depp had abused, hit, struck Amber Heard, right? That happened and she won. Then when the case went to the US the next year, which is when Johnny Depp was suing her for not naming him in a magazine article but saying that she was a survivor of domestic violence, that's when the circus kicked up a notch, right?
And it was like a TikTok. I got pulled into this algorithm that wanted to convince me that Amber Heard was the baddie and that
100%.
Johnny Depp was an innocent victim.
Even my kids got pulled into that.
Oh, my kids still talk about it now. It was such an effective smear campaign against Heard that I think you'd be hard pushed if you stopped a certain number of people on the street and asked them about that. They would say, she's crazy, she's deluded, he didn't do anything. The thing that's fascinating about this podcast is it starts with this case, and the host's a guy called Alexei Mostros, and he and his team start digging into, because a lot of people were suspicious about this vast like social media thing.
That why did everybody in the world suddenly?
Yes, and why was it so overwhelming? And they started digging into these vast data sets of tweets about Amber Heard. And alarm bells started going off almost immediately. One account, for example, had tweeted anti-Heard messages more than 370,000 times, which would mean a post every 2 minutes, 24 hours a day for 3 years.
Oh my God. So it was bots.
They're not people. So the whole premise of Who Trolled Amber, and it's impeccably sourced, they talked to Jen Robinson, they talked to heaps of people, is about, was this really about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, or is this really a much bigger, sinister, almost test case for what happens when a powerful entity wants to interfere with a public situation, whether that might be politics, whether that might be a criminal trial, maybe there might be the US election.
You might not be able to tell me this yet, but did Johnny Depp have anything to do with that?
Well, that's not entirely clear, and obviously the legals on this are considerable.
Yeah.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question.
But it is a very fascinating and disturbing show that tells you a lot about the way that the online world works.
And how public opinion can be mobilised by bad actors.
If it sounds like a lot, it kind of is. But one of the things that it just reminds us all the time, which I think we need reminding of more than ever as we head into this next phase of AI and, as you say, the US election, Mia, and all the things, it's not organic. The stuff that, and we know this, right? The stuff we're served, the opinions we're being shown all the time, the things we'll repeat back as absolute fact.
Grassroots movement.
Like very often there are much, much bigger things going on here. So Who Trolled Amber? It's a podcast. You can find it wherever you find podcasts. If you want to have your mind blown and feel a little bit terrified, go for it.
That sounds like fun. And to be clear, when I said bad actors, I wasn't talking about an actual actor who was bad at acting. I meant a malevolent
Force.
entity. My recommendation is to do a clothes swap. We did this at Mamma Mia this week. I also have been doing it in a WhatsApp group with a couple of girlfriends, and we're all trying to buy less at the moment, sometimes succeeding, sometimes not. But thrifting is really making a huge comeback. And what we wanted to do, particularly since we all got our colours done in here, and suddenly we're all looking at our wardrobes in different ways and thinking, here are all those things I've always wondered why I didn't want to put them on. It's because they're not the good colours for me. And so we all had big wardrobe clean outs. We set up a system where everyone that brought something would get a token, so they would get first dibs, but then there were other people who didn't bring something. You can do it however you want, whether it's with girlfriends, people at work, your sports team, and it's just great. There was everything from accessories to leggings, bags, shoes, dresses.
I really wanted to do it, but I felt self-conscious because I didn't think that what I had to contribute was nearly as good as
I felt the same.
But it doesn't matter. Like there's some stuff left over which we are going to donate to a women's shelter, and otherwise it'll go into landfill.
Holly and I think.
I
we
do.
won't swap.
Not
all
the
the
stuff.
time.
Not
Oh yeah,
that
you
stuff.
do all the time. Can you keep doing that?
Yeah, I will keep doing that. So clothes swap, highly recommend. And my other recommendation is that you sign up to the Out Louders newsletter, because all our recommendations, links to all the things we talk about behind the scenes, stories that we've talked about during the week, they'll all be in there. There's a link to sign up to the newsletter. It's free in the show notes.
Hi, Out Louders. It's Em Burnham here with a quick reco. I'm back in your ears. I kind of shipping my way back in the podcast when everyone else left. And this is one for the single girls. Or if you're not a single girl but have friends who are single, this is for you as well. If you live in Sydney, there is an event that we're hosting as Mamma Mia with the Sydney Swans. It's called Match Day Mingle, and it's presented by Listerine. The idea of this event actually started from where all good things start, a TikTok. Our social team went to a Swans game recently, and they pretty much just like filmed themselves asking the men who attended the game if they're single or not. That video went absolutely viral. It got picked up on TV. It got over 1 million views on TikTok. So we thought we'd formalize it because it seems like the girlies want to go to the Sydney Swans game. If that's you, I highly encourage you to come along. I'll be there. We get to meet. We get to hang. It's going to be held on July 13th. If you come, you can watch the whole game with us. You can have a drink. You can have some food. There's even going to be DJs. It's going to be like a proper party sesh. So come along. It's going to be at the SCG on Saturday. We will put a link in our show notes for where you can buy tickets.
Want unlimited Out Loud access? We drop episodes every Tuesday and Thursday exclusively for Mamma Mia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get us in your ears 5 days a week. And a huge thank you to all our current subscribers.
Okay, this is the part of the show, obviously, where we share a little more from our personal lives. We're not talking about big picture things. We're talking about little picture things. My worst. Last week I was sick. And I know that often our various sicknesses are our worst. It's kind of obvious.
Yeah. So
But
it's
not your
very
best.
revealing. It's revealing about health, though, isn't it?
It's only your best if you're
is.
Em Burnham and you get a week off work. And
Exactly, that's true. That was her best one.
Yeah.
I did take a couple of days off work, as you would know if you listen to Out Loud, because I wasn't on it. But the thing about it is, so I got what we think is probably a migraine, and I have had dalliances with migraines before, but I'd never experienced anything like this. I was flattened for a few days. But also, it may not have been a migraine. It's one of those things where, you know, people don't really know what it is, but basically I had a really debilitating headache for a while. I felt nauseous, all those things, and it could have been hormonal. It could have been all that stuff. But also, it made me remember the lesson that we always forget, right, which is that I think I'm really tired. I think that we have had an enormous few months, like in terms of work and all doing things I love out loud. The tour, launching Mid. When we got back from tour, you got sick, Mia, fell in a heap for a few days.
For a week.
Is this like when the doctor
3
asks if
weeks.
you're stressed or if you've had much on, and then you kind of have to go, it's like a flash of the last few months?
and
You're
you
like,
start
a little
crying.
bit.
There was that, but then also, in any time that I haven't been doing that, I'm trying to finish my book. I'm on rewrites of my book. Every minute of every day is work of some kind. And again, I love it all. Like,
You don't have to disclaim.
well, I do
You
have
don't
to say that because otherwise I
justify it.
sound like a whinger.
Well, you
But-
are a whinger. That's a stated fact. But like, you've also been driving up and down the coast. You flew
Yeah,
to
the
go and see your dad
commuting.
for his 80th
Exactly.
birthday in the UK.
There's a lot going on. And then there's just normal life, kids, family, all the things. And the thing is that's interesting is it reminded me that a few weeks ago I did that interview with Catherine May about burnout. She said, if you don't address trying to make life a bit more manageable and taking time to look after yourself and all those things, burnout will come and find you.
Oh, yes.
It will come and knock on your head in this case.
Wow.
Possibly. I mean, but it could have been many other things. It'll come and knock on you and it will make you lie down. And I know it sounds woo-woo, health
Nah,
is
all the
much
smart
bigger than
people
that.
are saying it.
But it's like a reminder and a lesson that I often don't learn is I'm like, it's fine. Like I can do all these things. When this is finished, when this busy time is over, I'll have a break, I'll do whatever. But it's like ultimately you can only do so much and burnout does get to us all in the end. So I think it was
the
a bit
universe
of one of those
keeps trying to teach
moments.
you and all of us the same lesson.
Sounds a bit victim blamey. You're blaming yourself for your headaches. Sometimes headaches just come.
Yes. And in fact, the other thing that's been interesting is that because the headache lasted a long time, I'm still here a little bit. And don't at me out loud as I've had brain scans and things like I'm not, I've been trying, like I've had acupuncture. I've had cups stuck on me.
Oh, I
I've
love
had
the
Chinese.
lengths.
Like
I
I'm doing
love it.
all that shit.
Yeah.
Have you tried manifesting to not have a headache?
And I'm manifesting.
Manifest harder.
And I'm like, all the people I've been talking to lately are like, meditate. So I'm like, I'm going to fucking have to start meditating my headache away. Anyway, that was my worst, is being reminded I am not, in fact, superhuman, as none of us are. My best is very, very frivolous. My best is that one day this week I came to work, better, obviously, wearing double denim.
I nearly did that the other day. And
I
I
nearly
wondered,
did that today.
So many compliments.
Can
Something
we?
in the air?
Is there something in the air?
Something
I
in the
didn't
air?
know if you would if Mia, you would make fun of me, so I didn't, but I will.
Have our wardrobes gone into sync?
They have like
our
a menstrual
non-existent
cycle.
periods?
Because
Different shades.
So, well, I've got this outfit I've worn a couple of times because you know me, I don't have that many things that I wear all the time. I'm a bit of a uniform person. My dark denim Carina jeans that I love and this dark denim shirt that I got from somewhere, short sleeve shirt. They're not meant to be the same, but they are almost the same. And whenever I wear them together, maybe with a colourful shoe, I was trying hard this day because I was like wanting to feel good after feeling sick. So I actually wore gold shoes and sparkly socks. Who even am
Where
I?
did you get the sparkly
cute.
socks?
They're old and I think they were from Topshop.
You need me to
like-
source you some,
Yeah,
don't
I
you?
do.
What
But-
kind of sparkly socks do you want?
I just want like a
Like a
Lurex.
what does that mean?
Like sparkly, like the ones I was
Sparkly.
wearing.
Butter.
Yeah.
Lurpak.
What? Lurpak?
Silver?
You want butter sock? What?
Anyway, I wore double denim and I got so many compliments that day that I was like, double denim is where it's frickin' at.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear double denim all winter long
Agree.
now. That's it.
I'm going to do it.
Of different shades.
Let's do it on
Should
Monday.
Mia tell me,
Yeah.
is it better to do double denim of different shades or try and match your shades up?
Either.
Because I do both.
Either.
Well, I mean, I
think-
don't do both. I've only been matching my shades.
I think double denim's just outstanding ever since Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears wore it to the VMAs.
they did double denim.
They did quadruple denim.
I'm going to do it.
I think we should all do it on Monday. We'll take a photo.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Double denim Monday. Mia?
My worst is that I have been spilling things a lot this week. I am a spiller.
I think
of
that's your
things.
burnout sign.
Ooh.
Yes.
I don't think you burn out.
That's
I
my
think you
tell.
spill.
It's like
Yeah.
how I used to fall over all the time. Remember how I used to fall over
That
all
was
the
a time,
That
wasn't
was
it,
my
when you were
burnout.
falling
That
over?
was a burnout
I
sign.
think you could be right. So this week alone, I have knocked over a full cup of tea in my daughter's bed. Fortunately, not mine, because I was just hanging out in her room. She's away.
I love how you're hanging out in her room because she's away.
So
you know I would hate that if I was her, don't you, with my boundaries?
hopefully
I'd be
she's not
like-
listening. I know she doesn't like it. She doesn't even like outside clothes. You're not allowed to wear your outside clothes sitting on her bed. Anyway, I've been like luxuriating in having her bedroom to myself because,
rubbing
when
yourself
when you live with someone, you give up your own room. Don't like that. So I've been using her room. Anyway, I knocked over a full cup of, and you know how big my cups of tea are, full cup of tea on the bed. 2 days later, I was leaving for work early, leaned over the bed to kiss my husband goodbye, knocked over a full cup of tea from the night before that was cold, that was beside the bed,
Onto the carpet?
onto the carpet.
Oh.
And then yesterday, I was going to put the milk back in the fridge, dropped it on the rug in the kitchen. And of course, I hadn't put the lid on properly because I'm not very good with that stuff. full bottle, a litre of milk.
Oh, no, milk's
all
bad.
over
hate a
the
spill.
rug.
Spilt milk.
And this morning I said to Chase, I wonder what I'm going to spill today. And then I was drinking my smoothie and I spilt it on my nose. Don't know how I even did that. So yeah, if my spill is my tell, that's that. My best of the week is I've got a little surprise for you guys. You wouldn't think it's my best of the week because it involves a bit of a sad story, but it actually has just given me so many lols. Here's a little voice note from someone who's going to tell you what my best of the week was.
Hey, Holly and Jessie. It's Julia Baird here. I am doing a public confession because I fucked up and Mia has asked me to do it. It's kind of, I think, like putting my head in the stocks. I had an event to go to. I had gold boots. I was trying to work out what to wear with it. And who else would you think of when you think gold and sparkly? Mia. I texted her and she's so gorgeous. She dropped around a whole bunch of her clothes and there was one coat I was particularly fond of, wore it to the event. It was fantastic. And Mia goes, just wear whatever you like until we see each other again. And so last weekend, fatefully, I was going to a dinner party and I threw it over this long gold thread coat over this black dress I was wearing. I went to dinner, halfway through I go to the bathroom and then I'm sitting there and I smell smoke. And I look around and the coat is on fire. Basically, my butt is on fire and I stand up and its flames are coming off it. And I had to put it on the tiles and stomp on it. And there in the ash was Mia's trust of me ongoing. And so I was mortified. I went home, I Googled it. I couldn't find a replacement. I had to confess to Mia and I said, mate, I've done something really bad and I'm literally having kittens and I've stuffed it up and I'm trying to find a replacement coat. And she goes, did you lose it? And I'm like, no, I set it on fire.
Of course your coat was flammable.
Of course it was.
I have to say, it's one of the most expensive coats I've ever bought.
Oh, no.
It's the one you love. You know
Oh,
that
I
beautiful
love
gold. Yeah,
that dark
it's that.
gold.
It's beautiful gold. Yeah.
Can you
Julia Baird, how could you have possibly have
do you
burnt
have a
that
photo
coat?
of it and
It
can you
is.
put it on the Out Loud
Yeah,
Instagram
I will.
so that we can all see
I will,
it?
because it is like beautiful. Like I love it. It has made me laugh so much because I said to Jules, babe, if you didn't like it, you could have just said so. You didn't have to set it on fire. And I'm like, how are you going to return it to me? In an urn?
No, maybe this is an elaborate ruse. She's actually stolen it and she doesn't want to give it back. And what do you say? You don't want to say you lost it. So you say, I accidentally set it on fire. This is a very tall tale.
Of all
But
the
what if she
people-
was seen out in it somewhere?
So true.
I
She's so
know.
mortified. And I just said, here's your penance. You have to make a voicemail. You have to confess. And I'm playing it in the podcast.
I feel like this is a dilemma because it's like, okay, if you burn a friend's coat, what is your like? What do you?
So
I like that you
she
try
tried
and
to
replace
find
it.
it.
It doesn't exist.
No, you
Not
can't find it
anymore.
anymore.
So she's just indebted to you for
she
all
is.
of eternity.
Yeah,
She
it's
could
just
have to
such a
come
great
round
story.
and clean up Mia's spilt smoothies for maybe a decade.
Yeah. She has to wear it. I'm going to buy a hair shirt for her to wear.
Oh my goodness.
You probably
that
have
was
one
my
of those
best.
in your wardrobe.
Probably a hair shirt, sparkly hair shirt. That was been my best because it's just been so funny. Like of all the things, like I'm like, how bad could it be if you stained it? Oh, maybe you've lost it, left it in an Uber.
Yeah.
And she goes, I set it on fire.
There must have been candles.
Jules.
My worst is that I've been trying to get back into exercise since I was away and I booked into a Pilates class this week. And you know when you organise your whole day around like Luca's going to get home and I'm going to do the handover and then I can get out for just 1 hour and do this class that I really, really want to do. I've joined this new gym. So excited. I leave. I do my fast walk to the gym. There's a bit of an issue with the thing to swipe in, run up, open the door. And the person who's running the class just looks at me and goes, the class has started, and then closed the door in my face. And then I looked at the time and I was 1 minute late.
No.
One.
Oh, no.
1 minute late.
Was it a Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders class run by Kelly?
It was Kelly.
And she was like, and you haven't got makeup on.
Yeah.
And you look like a foot. And your nails look like shit.
That's very
Huffing
harsh.
I was so upset.
What did you do?
So I was like, okay, the only option here is to go into the change room and cry. Because I
Yeah.
felt so
Oh, yes.
vulnerable.
If you were Holly and my age, you would say, I need to speak to the manager
nearly did.
or have a feedback
nearly
form.
did.
Do you have a feedback
Do
form?
you know how much it costs to do an exercise class
Yeah,
in
I
this
know.
day and age?
lot.
Too much. And I think they give you a little thing if you don't make it. And I was like, well, I am at the gym. Like it's a class in a gym. So I was like, technically I could exercise in another way. But I was meant to do my Pilates class.
You had it in your head.
If you're psyched up for a class, you can't just suddenly get on the rower. It's not.
No,
it doesn't work like
it doesn't
that.
work like that.
No.
1 minute.
all
I
spoiled.
was so shitty.
It's when you just go, it's all spoiled.
Yeah.
Correct. It's
This
all
always
wrecked. It's
happens
ruined.
to me.
The day's ruined.
Yeah.
It's ruined. I can't.
It was so sad. My best is my Saturday night. I haven't told you about my Saturday night. I went out on Saturday.
Out. I love it.
went
Where are
out.
you going out? I'm going
I'm
out.
going out.
Who did you go out with?
I love
Okay,
going
so
out. Never
two
happens.
of my very good friends, their group of mates, run this event called Show Us Your Tips, which is like a queer event. It's body and sex positive. And basically, it's local professionals that perform, right? Pole dancing. But they are naked.
What?
Yes! So they are boobies out, bits out, all of it out,
The
right?
whole thing's naked. What other things could you do?
And they perform it like they are amazing. And like
So it's not just like
it's
you.
like a striptease. No, definitely not just me. There was a nude model and everyone had to draw them. There was like a queer pole dancing. Oh, I love watching pole. You never get to watch pole dancing.
No, pole dancing's amazing.
It was to watch people do it. And they came out at the beginning that it was hosted by this incredible person who was like, 2 rules. Everybody is a beautiful body, so we don't body shame here. And bodies of all different shapes and sizes. There was no preference. There was so much diversity. And the second thing was don't touch. Like the person walking around.
What about
next
no
to you-
photos?
That's good to know.
No photos. So
Yeah,
as
no
you walk
photos.
in, they put little stickers on the back of your phone camera so that you can't go up and
Yeah,
just
good
take a
idea.
photo of.
Surreptitiously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no photos and just like respect and blah, blah, blah. And when you buy a ticket, you also get like these tokens so that you can tip people as they're like dancing so that
That's
you
the show us your tips.
essentially like pay the
that's
pay the
clever.
talent. But I just thought
Were there men and women?
men and women.
Can I ask about the nude pole dancing?
Yeah.
Do you not then look up into someone's anus and vagina?
So closely.
Up into their anus.
I think the person on the pole may have kept their G-string on, but I just couldn't stop staring.
You know, a very long time ago, I was at
Wow.
a not very radical and exciting pole dancing night at some awful strip club in Melbourne. I don't know where I found myself there. I was in my 20s and these things happened. And
I thought you meant like a couple of weeks ago.
the image I will never get out of my mind is after the pole dance had finished, a little man came on with a spray bottle and a little wipey cloth. They
did that.
And like, sprayed, which obviously
They
you
play
have to for obvious reasons. It just shatters any glamour that you
Yeah,
might
I
have.
watched that too. I watched
of
them
spray
clean
and
it and
wipe.
I thought, are they lubing it up
True.
for something?
No,
What are they?
spray and wipe.
Loved that. But the reason I loved it so much was, so they said the thing at the beginning about don't touch. And I just thought, we've had heaps of conversations about sexual assault and everything on this show. Everyone was just cool. Like you can walk out
Be cool.
with your boobs out.
Yeah, be
And no
cool.
one touches you because we're all grown-ups and we
Yeah.
actually know how to restrain ourselves.
Be cool.
The second thing was that in the queer community, and I was very much like there as an ally, but the history of these communities and sex workers and homophobia, what some of these people have experienced is really, really tough. And to feel like the pride in the room and the freedom of it was just so much fun.
Wow.
Like I loved being a part of it and it was just so entertaining and I just thought this is really cool.
Amazing.
great
Yeah,
Saturday
it was
night.
really, really cool. I was out till so late and then I probably drank a little bit too much, but then I just slept off my hangover. And I haven't done that since before Luna was born. So it was just a very
That's a
exciting night.
milestone.
Yeah. I went out and I didn't think about that. I was just there looking at the boobies and the willies and all that. Loved it.
Great.
Loved it.
That's the best for ages.
That's so good.
we
That
should
also
get out more, shouldn't we?
that also makes sense because on Sunday when all our kids are away, this was my other best. Our kids are away and we've sent our dogs away. Jason and I have an empty house. We don't remember. We just are like giggling. We're just like
Since when?
giggling all the time. We've got all this freedom. We sent the dogs away so it would be like a proper experience. We're having a sleep in on Sunday morning. Didn't have to get up early to let the dogs out. Luca with Luna.
Can someone look after this baby?
It's never over.
I don't think Jessie's getting out of bed today.
Jessie's very much asleep. How about some grandma time?
If you're sad that the week is over, do not worry. We have plenty plenty more episodes for you to listen to. If you missed yesterday's subs episode, we talked about Jessie's therapy dilemma. Here's a little bit of what we said.
Recently, someone very clever said, stress is actually the denial of emotion, not the emotion itself. So I wish it was more my voice, but I hear my psychologist in my head a lot before I make certain decisions. This inner child work, which sounds really woo-woo, but basically like listen to the deepest part of you that's saying, no, I don't want to do that. No, I'm tired. No, I'm sick. No, I want to hang out with my daughter. The more you reject that, like it's quite fracturing.
We'll put a link in the show notes to that episode. That's it. That's all we've got time for today and this week. Massive thank you to all of you, the Out Louders, for listening to today's show. We'll be back in your ears next week. This episode was produced by Emmeline Gazillis. The assistant producer is Charlie Blackman, with audio production from Leah Porges. Thank you, Out Louders, and goodbye.
Bye.
Shout out to any Mamma Mia subscribers listening. If you love the show and want to support us as well, subscribing to Mamma Mia is the very best way to do so. There is a link in the episode description.